Good morning, guys. Jono here with our thoughts for the week on investment markets we've just seen and looking at what's going to be a really busy week and fortnight or so ahead of us into Aussie corporate reporting season. Markets starting to just be impacted late last week by the impact of the coronavirus and all the various travel restrictions, and people starting to see how it is going to sort of clog the wheels of the global economy up now. And I would expect it to continue for the next month or so until we get some certainty on the virus being contained. It's no good for Australia. We've already got a really very fragile economy leading into the summer. Then we had the bushfires, and now, as I say, the tourism industry is likely to be impacted again by a significant reduction in travel ability, particularly out of China. So there's every chance, perhaps as we look into 2020 and the fact that the likelihood of a fiscal stimulus might be delayed into the May budget, that we could actually see our first potential technical recession in Australia in 30 years. Last week, NAB business confidence numbers came out at a 6-year low, and that was before the impact of the bushfires in the data. Unsurprisingly, the currency is just off a decade low as well, and probably the one thing that's sort of continued to hold us from a market standpoint, an economic standpoint in there, that weaker currency. So we're already pretty fragile, and as I say, maybe the virus could be the death knell for growth in 2020 for Australia. So something for us to watch. We flagged up the corporate reporting season would be really tricky. We had more profit warnings out last week. Last week we had Treasury Wine Group and Nearmap, and I expect more to come. This week will be a big feature for markets on the political front in the United States. We've got the Iowa caucus on Tuesday morning Australian time, the State of the Union out on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning Australian time from the president. And then we've got another town hall debate from the Democrat candidates ahead of the New Hampshire caucus, which is early next week. So there's plenty of things for the market to focus on. Just rounding out the comment this week on single stocks. Again, a very volatile market, mostly on the negative side of things, unfortunately, in these three names. But in the case of Oil Search, we've had what seems to be a delay in the future development of some pretty large gas reserves in PNG there, as ExxonMobil in particular forestall on negotiations with the PNG government there, and that's caused some weakness in the share price today. The other remark to make on IFF is that they've had a small revision to profit guidance as well, despite having some really good fund flows. In fact, the best fund flows in 18 months, which they reported late last week as well. And in the case of Webjet, the stock's been under a lot of pressure. It hasn't profit warned. We get numbers out in 2 or 3 weeks, but the impact of the virus, the impact of the bushfires, couldn't have come at a worse time for the company, given that they're in the process of trying to sell their business off. So we've seen that stock fall about 20%, but we do think there's some really good value starting to creep into the shares at these levels. So fingers crossed we're near enough to a low. Anyway, have a great week. Thanks.